Welcome to online NPTEL course on Introduction to Complex Biological System. I am Dibyendu Samanta, a faculty member in the Department of Bioscience and Biotechnology at IIT Kharagpur. So, today I will start the module 1, Nucleic Acids, the hard drive for the information of life. So, today this is just introductory topic. So, where I am going to discuss about fundamentals of a living system, and this will be a short lecture where I would like to particularly explain the fundamental properties of a living system and level of organization of different life forms, followed by universal principles that are applied for all living units. So, the course is designed in such a way that students from different background, you can be from biology major, or if you are from some engineering background, maybe first year engineering students in different engineering colleges, you can follow this course properly. We will not go into much more details of biology itself, but we will particularly explain the fundamental principles of biology, how molecules, different types of their interactions govern complex biological system. So, therefore, it will be interesting for all of us, whether you have some good background in biology or not, that doesn't matter too much. So, here fundamental properties of a living system, if I try to explain what is a living system. It is very difficult to define what is life. Sometimes it depends on to whom I am asking this question or who is answering this question, because it's really difficult to understand what is life. Say for example, if I say a seed just lying on a floor, so seed. So, apparently it seems like it is non-living thing, but all of you know that when this seed properly get suitable condition, I would say some water, air and soil, then it will germinate and it will give rise to a plant. So, I cannot say that seed is a non-living entity, rather seed has life, but maybe it is in different condition, maybe it is dormant, but some basic level of metabolic activity is still going on inside the seed, and whenever it is getting suitable condition, it will germinate and give rise to a plant. Similarly, seed is very common, all of us know, but sometime if I give you another example, for example, tardigrade. This is an animal. I would say this is a millimeter long cousin of arthropod. It is very small, but you can compare with something like arthropod, like cockroach. And its common name is water bear. The beauty of this animal is it can stay for long time. I would say not just few months, years after years, in a very difficult condition, very high temperature, for example 100 degree centigrade temperature, or without water for 100 years, no problem, it can still survive. Whenever it will get proper environment, optimal condition, again it will be in its its proper form. It can again walk, it can go from here to there. So, as a result of that, understanding the chemistry, understanding the mechanism, how tardigrade actually maintain this maintain this property in a harsh condition, it can be just staying as non-living stuff, but actually life is there, and in proper condition it can go around and it can showing it that this is alive. So, let us discuss about those fundamental properties rather than defining what is life. So, first of all, it is very complex thing. high degree of complexity should be there in a living system. And then mechanisms for sensing and responding to alteration in surrounding. This is also true for all living entity. For example, as I mentioned that seed, whenever we are giving some condition, for example water, then seed will germinate. So it can actually respond in alteration of surrounding. And then capacity for precise self-replication and self-assembly. This is very important because any living entity, any living unit will try to make its offspring so that the line can survive, so they can make their own entity. And then system for extracting, transforming and using energy from the environment. So apparently you may think that we are not really extracting and transforming energy from the environment, but actually we are depending on some other organism. For example, plants, right? All of you know that plants, they can do photosynthesis in presence of sunlight, and they can trap carbon dioxide from air and taking water from the soil, and they can make food, like particularly carbohydrates. But those foods are being again utilized by us, animals and many other organisms. So as a result of that, living entity, they have systems for extracting, transforming and using energy from the environment. And then ability to evolve. This is very important thing. The living system, they can evolve over time. Over millions of years, living system, they actually evolve in such a way that they have solved many of the problems. So that's why nowadays there is another subject which is very, I would say, interesting and coming up, that is called biomimicry or biomimetics, where like human being, for example, we try to understand from the nature. Like nature, particularly living units, they have already solved many problems. So if we can study living thing properly, and then we can actually take those information and try to design something, try to make something. That's why biology is very important, and you can understand that biology is being taught in I would say everywhere now. For all engineering college, mostly in their first year, they have some kind of fundamental biology course. So now, whatever I mentioned about this fundamental property, now if I say just an example, I would say fire. So see, I discuss about seed, I discuss about tardigrade, now I am saying fire. So all of you know fire is a non-living thing. But see now, like almost all of the properties, whatever I discuss, everything like you can say in fire also. Like they can be complex and they can sense and respond to alteration in surrounding. For example, if you give more air, more oxygen, fire will grow. And they can also replicate, fire can actually multiply. And also they can extract and transform energy from the environment. So as a result of that, that's why at the beginning I told it's very difficult to explain what is life and what is living system. But altogether, if we understand all this property, and I will discuss some more thing, then you will be able to understand what is a living system and what are the fundamental properties of a living system. Now, I will go into the next part, that the levels of organization of life forms. I understand that there are several types of living unit present in Earth, but we would like to summarize them in terms of their organization. So if I start from the from the very beginning, I would say, for example, biosphere. So biosphere means all living entities of the universe. So a few million species present in universe. So everything together, we would say that this is biosphere. So now if I give an example of biosphere, so I would say Earth. Earth is an example of biosphere. So where many different types of living entity present. Now maybe some other planet, they might have a living entity, but we are not aware yet. So that's why I'm just giving example that Earth is an example of biosphere. Then ecosystem. So ecosystem means the interacting community of different life forms. So as a result of that, I would say there are many ecosystems present in biosphere. And ecosystem means, I would say, if I say this is an example like a rainforest ecosystem. So rainforest ecosystem is very common in our country, in tropical country, right? So now in rainforest ecosystem, if you see, I would say in forest you have different types of plants, right? It can be trees, it can be some small grasses. Now there are insects, they are depending on these plants. They are eating some of those plants. So I would say now insects. Now insects like some other animal, for example frogs, they can depend on insect and then followed by snake and bird. So all those living entity, they are depending on each other, and at the end I would say they will die also at some time point. So we have also micro organism. That means I would say microbes. It can be bacteria, fungi, and many more microbes. So they will again destroy the these dead body of this snake and birds, everything, and again it will be recycled. So this is ecosystem. And now if we go to the next level, organism, the individual life form or species present in this biosphere or present in this ecosystem, whatever you say, this is organism. For example, an insect is an example of organism, or frog, insect, those are organisms present in biosphere. And now if we go to the next level, then organ system. Group of organs work together to perform a complex function that is called organ system. So if we say organ system, for example in human body, there are different organ system present. And if I say our digestive system, this is an organ system, because many organs, they work together to do particular type of job. For example, we have stomach, we have intestine, large intestine, all together they form this digestive system. And they digest our food, like when we eat food, they digest it together. And now the next level, if we go again, it will be organ, that is collection of tissues for a specialized function, that is called organ. And we have different types of organ in our body. So if I explain, like I started from biosphere and I will go up to molecule level just to explain the different level of organization. So here if you see, I'm just trying to draw some organ here. So now you can understand. So this is our ear, human ear. So this is an organ, and ear is very important for hearing as well as for balancing. Both function actually carried by our ear. And now if you see, inside organ we have different types of tissues for a specialized function. I will explain whenever time will come. Now tissues, these are homogeneous group of cells that work together to perform specific function. So I will explain this organ and tissues together in context to our ear. So now if this is an ear, so and we hear through our ear. So what happens? So sound wave, so this is wave, like sound wave, sound waves. So when sound waves enter inside our ear, so we have this is external ear, and then this is called ear canal. Sound wave is going through ear canal, and then at the end of the ear canal you have a thin membranous tissue. I was telling about tissues, right? We have thin membranous tissue which is known as ear drum. So it has some specific function, and it has some specific type of cells. So for example, when we beat a drum, what happens? It vibrates and it makes some sound. So similarly, when the sound waves that enter through this ear canal, it hit this eardrum, this membranous tissue there. As a result of that, eardrum actually vibrates, and that vibration is going through different parts of the ear which is present in middle and inner ear, and accordingly everything happens properly and we can hear. So now what is happening here? We have small bones here, tiny bones present just after the eardrum. So they can also vibrate. So as a result of that, this sound wave, this sound, it gets amplified and it reaches into the next level through the middle layer, or through this tiny bone. So in the inner ear we have a different structure like this. So this is called cochlea. This is present in inner ear. So it has also some specific type of tissues. They have some specific function, right? So as a result of that, now this sound wave reaches into this cochlea. And this cochlea is filled up with some liquid. And as a result of that, the liquid present inside cochlea, that will ripple, that will make some kind of wave inside the liquid. And there you have some cells, specialized cells. Those cells are called hair cells. Hair cells. Those are present in cochlea. And because this liquid present inside cochlea, that is making some kind of wave, and these hair cells also will they will get some kind of motion, and because of this motion they will actually convert this mechanical energy into some electrical energy. Some receptors are present in these hair cells. I am not going into that much of details, and some nerve ending is also present. So as you can see, some nerve is going like this. Together we say this is auditory nerve, auditory nerve. So as a result of that, this mechanical energy, that movement of these hair cells, that is converted into electrical energy, and that is going through our auditory nerve, through our into our brain, and our brain can process this information and we hear that sound. So this is all about the hearing process, briefly I just explained. But now what I want to mention, that this is an organ, this ear, and now this eardrum, it has specific type of cells which is a tissue. Then cochlea, that is another type of tissue present in cochlea. And now if we go to the next level, the cell, the smallest unit of life. So cells are present everywhere. Eardrum, they have cells. Cochlea, they have cells, for example hair cells. And especially those cells, if you see the fundamental mechanism going on inside the cells, they are very similar to each other. Although the function of eardrum and the function of hair cells are different, but at the cellular level, their activity is very similar to each other. And then we have organelle. Organelle means the distinct structure within the cell with one or more specific jobs. So Like I would say, if I give you some example of organelle is mitochondria. So mitochondria is an example of organelle, and it is present in every cell. It is present in eardrum cells, it is present in hair cells everywhere, and it is producing energy for us, right? So as a result of that, this is not just mitochondria, there are many organelles which are present, in all those cells, and their basic mode of function is similar. And this is the, I would say, at the lowest level, the molecular level, we have some macromolecules, some biomolecules like nucleic acids, protein, lipid, carbohydrates. Those are also known as like building blocks of living system, and all together they made this kind of organelle, then cells is going on like this. But in this course, especially we will discuss about the bottom half, particularly from these molecules, organelles, cells, tissues up to that. Not like, we are going to discuss about biosphere, ecosystem, organism, organ system, because see, those are like, in our world, I would say, we have different types of biodiversity, different types of organism present. You will see lot of diversity. There are different, like, from the outside they look very much different. But if you see at the molecular level, if you see at the cellular level, they are very similar. Even I would say plants, bacteria or animals, human, so the basic mode of action is similar. If you see at the molecular level, they are very close to each other. So we are mostly focusing on this basic understanding, the fundamental understanding how this life form work in this course. Now, I would like to explain the universal principles that are applied for all living unit. So, first of all, I already mentioned that cell, they are the smallest unit of life. So, and they are the basic building block of all living things. So, now why cells are small? Although some cells are big, for example, like many eggs, particularly egg of birds and sometimes eggs of fish, those are kind of really big, particularly eggs from bird like chicken egg, for example. It's just a single cell. It's very big for a different reason, but otherwise most of the cells are very small, and cell should be small. There are like a lot of advantages. If I particularly try to explain you why cell should be small. So if I say this is one cell, and here every side is 4 millimeter, okay, 4 millimeter. And now you will get some kind of, surface by volume ratio. Now, if I put here small block here, so like this. Now also in this volume it is fitting, right? Like 4 cells here, like this. Now, if those cells are, those units are very small, then you will get in the same volume, you have more surface. So as a result of that, if cells are small, then the surface by volume ratio is increasing, which is very important, because you know that for living thing, like for example cells, they need nutrient, they need to exchange different types of gases. So as a result of that, if surface is more, then all these exchanges of nutrients and gases will be much easier. So that's why small cells are always useful for us. And now, if you see, the next thing I'm going to discuss about the different types of organism. For example, the unicellular versus multicellular organism. Like there are many unicellular organisms. So if I give you an example, that is bacteria. This is prokaryote. I will explain what is prokaryote, but this is unicellular bacteria. And then some other organism, for example, amoeba, this is also unicellular. And then multicellular, all of us know, for example, human being, plant, we are multicellular organism. But if you see whether it's unicellular or multicellular, they have like very similarities at the cellular level, and they have their own information in terms of genetic material, and they properly function, and that's why all of them, this living entity, they perform their specific job. But the thing is, all of them, whether it's unicellular or multicellular, they are very complex. Even a bacteria is very complex, because for example, you know that bacteria sometimes they develop antibiotic resistance, although they are just unicellular, they have just one cell, right? But still over the time they can develop some kind of resistance against some antibiotic, and this is a big problem in human society, that antibiotic resistance in bacteria. And then we have prokaryote and eukaryote. So prokaryote means, if we try to explain this prokaryote, so pro means before, and karyon means nucleus. So prokaryotes means before nucleus. And what is the example? I would say example is bacteria. All bacteria, they are example of prokaryote. That means they don't have nucleus. This is before nucleus. They do have genetic material, but they don't have nucleus. But in case of eukaryote, so eukaryote means eu means true and karyon means nucleus. So as a result of that, they have true nucleus. So they have true nucleus. So nucleus is an organelle present inside the cell, and inside that organelle we have our genetic material. So for example, mouse, human, plant, all are example of eukaryotic cell, right? So again, both bacteria and human, like prokaryote and eukaryote, they have their genetic material inside the cell. And as I already mentioned, whether it's unicellular or multicellular, that doesn't matter. Whether it's prokaryote or eukaryote, that doesn't matter. All cells, they have their genetic material. Since I started talking about genetic material, we should mention what is genetic material. So I will explain in more details in the next lecture. But the thing is, all of us, we know that Mendel's law of inheritance. In 1860s, during that time, Mendel discovered so many things, like which is actually coming from the previous generation to the next generation, and based on that, he properly explained that law of inheritance. But at that time, it was not known what is the mechanism, where is this information is present, where the genetic information is present, and how it is going to the next generation. The specific molecular mechanism was not known. And after some time, the nomenclature of gene came into place. In 1907, the word gene was coined to describe the Mendelian units of heredity. That is true, but still I would say that time it was not known whether this gene means the information, whether it is present in DNA or it is present in protein, where it is present, how it works, we were not aware during that time. And now, again, I would like to explain a little bit about the macromolecules, like biological macromolecules. For example, carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids. These are again present in all living entity, and all of them, they are kind of polymer. For example, if I say carbohydrates, it's present everywhere, right? So carbohydrate, if I say just an example of table sugar. The sugar, generally we use when we make tea or coffee, we add some sugar, right? Table sugar. So this is an example of disaccharide. This is an example of disaccharide. That means two carbohydrate units are attached together. So here glucose plus fructose. So these are the monomer, they are attached together and they form table sugar. Similarly, proteins, they are made up of amino acids. So amino acids are attached through peptide bond and they make this polymer. Nucleic acids, they are also polymer of nucleotides. So as a result of that, if you see this biological macromolecules, their basic structure is same, whether you are taking a protein or nucleic acid or carbohydrate from bacteria or plant or from human, that doesn't matter, but their basic architecture is same. And now these components of living system, whatever these macromolecules I mentioned, they have hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur and phosphorus. These are the major atom present in these biological macromolecules. Especially you should know that this hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur, this is present in proteins, and similarly hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and phosphorus, this is present in nucleic acid. So this information will be helpful in future discussion. So as what you can see here, that sulfur we are putting in protein and phosphorus we are putting in nucleic acid, but other three like hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, that is present everywhere in nucleic acid as well as protein. But I forgot to mention here one thing that is present everywhere, that should be carbon, right? Carbon should be here. So here carbon. And this is the last slide for today's lecture, that the universal principles that are applied for all living system, that is central dogma of molecular biology. I will discuss in more details in future, but if you see, I just mentioned that all living entity, they have their genetic material, and mostly I would say DNA is the genetic material. In some viruses, although RNA is present as their genetic material, but that is some exception. So DNA is our genetic material. Now DNA goes to DNA, DNA can make DNA, right? And this process is called replication. And then DNA form RNA, this is another polymer which is made up of nucleotides also. So this process is called transcription. And finally, from RNA we will get the protein, and this process is called translation. So now if you see, the information flow from nucleic acid to protein. So from protein we are not making RNA or DNA. So this is the central dogma, that the information is always flowing from nucleic acid towards protein, but not in the reverse direction. And this is true in all living entity. And this is the central dogma. I will discuss more in more details in other classes. And that's all. You can go through any of this textbook for additional details. That's all. Thank you.